Before I begin, I'd like to invite you to grab whatever you love creating with and join me for a little bit. That could be your sketchbook, it could be your drawing tablet, it could be knitting, it could be whatever you enjoy creating with. Join me for a little moment in time while I create and we can both end up creating together. Hello and welcome back. Sometimes when I am in my sketchbook and I'm facing down a new drawing that I'm already a good chunk of the way into, I come across a realization that it's not really a realization because it keeps popping up over and over. And that is that I can take the drawing anywhere from where I am right now. Almost anywhere, at least. There's not a fully infinite amount of possibilities. There are some restrictions to what I could do with it, but there are a variety of different things and different ways I can go, and that's something that I want to talk about today in terms of possibility and how that can be scary for beginners sometimes starting out, and sometimes it can be scary for people that are a little bit further in as well. And that realm of possibilities and the fear that comes with it is something that I just want to share some contemplations over today. This isn't necessarily going to be advice, and I'm not going to talk about the practical things that I do regarding choices and possibilities today. I'm more just sharing what I was thinking about while doing this sketch that you're watching me do now, because it came up again while I was sketching, so I thought it was fitting to talk about it while sharing the process of the page with you. So let me just take you along on the beginnings of this drawing in order to illustrate what I'm talking about. When I first sat down, I picked up one pencil, which is the one you saw right at the beginning, which is a 0.9mm HB mechanical pencil. And the reason why I'm being specific about that is because it is relevant to the discussion. I'm not just randomly throwing out the tool I was using. It is relevant. So as I sat down and started sketching, I put in some simple shapes, started working out things like proportions and blocking in forms and all the things that I like doing to start out a sketch. And then I started gradually, step by step, refining what I had originally put down. I started putting in more defined shapes or the smaller shapes. I started putting in the forms in more precision, and I ended up reaching a rough sketch, which is the pencil lines you're seeing underneath what I'm inking right now. And it is as I was starting to reach that stage of the sketch that these thoughts started coming up again. And that's because I realized once again that I could do anything from this point, or near enough anything. Of course, there are some limitations to what I can do, things like the materials I own, or what the paper can handle, and whether or not I want to use something the paper can handle or not handle, and a variety of other limitations. But I could still do a lot of different things. I could have continued with the same pencil, the same 0.9 HB mechanical pencil, and refined it to a more finished sketch by going in and making like clearer line art with the pencil, or developing value with the 1 HB pencil, trying to really push one tool. Or I could have gotten out my other mechanical pencils with different lead thicknesses and different softnesses, and ended up producing different line weights and different values by having a wider range of tools accessible to me, but still all pencil. I could have brought out wooden pencils to do the same thing as well. I could have brought out colour pencils to, instead of doing graphite line art, doing colour pencil line art. I could have brought out ink pens, and then there's a variety of different things I could have done and different combinations I could have used for ink pens. I only brought out 4 at the very beginning, and I ended up picking 2 for this. But really, I could have done anything with it. I could have also just left the sketch as it was. I could have just left it as the rough graphite sketch and then just moved on to something else. And that is one realm of possibility that I'm talking about, is the possibility of what to use and what to do with the sketch. But then there's also the possibility of what's going to happen to what you're working on. And that can be where thoughts like, what if I ruin it, can come up. You might end up really liking the early stage of a sketch you're working on, and then you continue it and you feel like it's ended up being ruined and you wish that you hadn't continued with it and just left it as it was. Those kind of thoughts, the thoughts of what if I ruin it and what if I pick the wrong thing when it comes to the tools or the techniques, those two thoughts combined is where some fear of possibilities can end up coming in for beginners. And it's also where a lot of things like negative thoughts and paralysis and things like that can come in. And when you're in that position, because I'm talking from my own experience at this point, when you're in that position and you go out seeking advice, you watch videos, you talk to people, and you try to find out what people further ahead of you advise for this particular thing. So you hear from professionals, you hear from people that have 10 years more experience than you, whatever it might be. And one of the things that you'll hear, because this is one of the things I heard when I was beginning, is that it doesn't matter because it's just one sketch, it's just one drawing, it's just one painting. And that it'll get easier to deal with those things the more paintings you do or the more drawings you do. And that piece of advice can be quite difficult to take in and navigate as a beginner. Again, I'm just speaking from my own experiences here, but when you are a beginner, when you sit down and you do that just one drawing, it's a lot easier to attach a lot of emotional weight to it because it might only be your 5th drawing. The sketchbook you might be working in might be your first sketchbook, and it might be a lot easier depending on your temperament, your personality, and the experiences you've had. It might be a lot easier to attach a lot of heavy emotional weight to that thing because you've done so little of it so far. It might be a lot more intimidating to you because it is only your 5th drawing, it is only your first sketchbook. And when someone who is 10 years down the line is sitting down to draw, it might be their 20th sketchbook, it might be their 9,862nd drawing or whatever. When you are on the other side of a stack of sketchbooks and a stack of drawings, there is an ease to those things that comes in my own experience. I'm talking about this right now because I can remember what it was like as a beginner, and I can talk about how I feel now. And I can say that in my experience these years later, and the amount of practice I've done later, that it is a little bit easier to deal with those thoughts. The thoughts still come up sometimes, but it's easier to handle them because you can have that experiential thing to be like, yeah, this is just another drawing. But I feel like it goes beyond just saying, oh, it's another drawing. It's not quite as simple as that, at least for me. And what I'm meaning by that is that I feel like alongside all of that raw experience, all of that raw just doing art, I was building other skills the entire time. And I think it's a combination of building those skills and the raw experience that has led me to handling the thoughts and things that can come up a lot easier and have a different perspective now when it comes to dealing with possibilities. Some of those skills are things like patience. When you're beginning, you can probably relate to the feeling of like, oh, I'm not a very patient person, so I've got to do this, and this. But patience is a skill. It's something that you can work on gradually. There's also a bunch of other things that you can work on as well while doing art, and it can be things like self-love, self-confidence, all the different self words, and deal with the individual things that you need internally as one person. And I feel like dealing with all of those things, all those soft, squishy things, alongside the more quantifiable things, like how many sketchbooks have you done? How many paintings have you done? How many years have you been doing it? Both of those together is what has contributed to me being able to sit down and be like, okay, yeah, I might ruin this, but it's just another drawing. And even if negative thoughts come up, I have an easier time handling them now. I suppose what I wonder is whether I would be in the same position I am now if I had only done the quantifiable stuff, if I hadn't intentionally worked on the soft, squishy things too. Would I be able to handle things the same way, the negative thoughts and emotions and things, the same way if I hadn't done both and I had only done the quantifiable practice? And yeah, something that I'll never know because this is the path I chose, but it's interesting to wonder about a little bit. But thank you for joining along with me. If you created anything while I was rambling, let me know what you were up to in the comments, and maybe share some of your thoughts about this as well. I will see you next time. Bye.